Hey, good morning, Drive Time. Welcome back. As always, I'm David Drum. And today I am joined by Andy Kaup. Andy is a pastor at Bellview Christian Center in Nebraska. And if that name sounds familiar, for those of you at Cape Christian, that's Corey's home church where he came from before he came to Florida. So Andy, welcome to Drive Time and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Excited to be with you. We love Cape Christian, even though we're all the way here in Nebraska, but had an opportunity to visit not too long ago and just love you guys. And we're thankful that you're doing something, putting up with Corey while he's there. So we appreciate you guys.
Well, it's a blessing and a curse sometimes, But anyways, so, guys, as you guys who watch us week in and week out know that there's conversation that exists before we ever hit record on these videos, and had a really cool opportunity. And what's funny for me is so many times in the midst of these conversations before I hit record, I think, man, I really wish I would have hit record already, because there's a natural flow to conversations that happens that I think it's hard to duplicate it, but we're going to give it a shot. Because as Andy and I started talking about our dialogue this morning and this video, I put the ball in his court and said, what are you feeling? So I want to do that again. And Andy, I'd like you to go down that road again and start with that verse out of 1 Samuel, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I'm looking at is kind of this thought process coming out of 1 Samuel 17, which is the story of David and Goliath. Obviously one of the most famous stories inside a church, outside of church. Somebody everywhere has a concept of this story of this young boy David taking down this champion warrior of a giant, and it's always been one of my favorite stories. And throughout the years in my life as I've grown and continued to just kind of walk this thing out with God, it's become not just a verse to me, but really a lot of what I feel God has called me to, not to go looking for giants necessarily, but just the kind of man that God's called me to be. I'm a husband. The next week I'll celebrate 13 years being married to my wife, Michelle. We've got 3 kids. And so this verse to me is more than just a story that happened then, but it's context for my life. It's okay, how do I walk this thing out? So I won't go too deep into the thought of the story itself, because for the most part, we're probably familiar with the way the story went down. But there's this one particular verse, verse 32 in 1 Samuel 17, and it's David talking to King Saul as David is volunteering to go fight this giant. And, the whole army of God's people is scared, they're trembling and all of this. And David's like, nope, I'll go do it. And he says these powerful words. He just says, let no one else lose heart on account of this giant or this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight. And the reason this has been such an impactful verse for me, for my life, is when I look around in our world, in our culture, we're not short on people losing heart. There's people all around us, wherever we look, wherever we go, whether it's in our homes or in our workplace or just in the community, in the places we visit. People are losing heart. They're giving up. They have no peace. Their hope is failing them, and I think this last year, or really more like 18 months or 19 months, as we've walked through COVID and we've walked through just not just COVID itself, but just a number of different things that have really hit people. Like life has a way of just kind of sucker punching us sometimes. And in the midst of that, it can be easy to lose heart, to start to give up a little bit, think I don't know that we can recover from this, or this challenge, whatever it may be, this challenge is too big. It's insurmountable. It's a giant in my life. And there's people that live that in that place. That's where their daily life is facing down giants and feeling like, I can't do this. This is too much for me. So
it's interesting. You said, the verse talks about people losing heart around David in that. And, I think as modern readers of scripture, sometimes the phrases don't conceptually, don't lose heart. Okay. But what does that actually sound like in our, man, it's just too much, or I don't know how I'm going to recover from this. That's our way of saying we've lost heart. And it's interesting, that story is always interesting to me, because David didn't show up to fight giants. David showed up because his dad told him to go bring sandwiches to his brothers.
Right.
He had a purpose. He had a reason to be there. He didn't go out looking for giants, but he was sensitive to what was going on around him.
Yeah.
So talk about that, because I think as guys, we all conceptually, we all want this, I want to be a warrior for the Lord. I want to go out and slay giants.
Right.
Whereas maybe first we probably just need to, bring sandwiches. There's, and then be willing to be open to God's change of plans. So I want to talk about that first in the sense of where do you guys start to even being sensitive to, hey, these people around me are losing heart?
Yeah. I think it's that's a great point that David came to the battlefield, to the battle lines with a simple task. That just show up, bring food for your brothers, and it would have been really easy for him to just kind of show up, do what he was told, and then get out of there and not concern himself with anything that was happening on the battle lines, because he wasn't invited in the first place as far as to the fight. He had a completely different task. And I think sometimes as men, I know personally I've been in this place where I can feel like, well, there's nothing special about what I do. My work isn't designed for me to show up and to fight for people, or there's not, I spent years doing HVAC before ever becoming a pastor, and it's easy to look at that and to go, well, how do I fight for people when I'm just trying to fix air conditioners? How does that relate? But like David, when we're just faithful and we recognize that wherever I am, I have purpose, right? So if it's on a job site, if it's in an office, if it's when I go home and I'm with my wife and my kids, there's purpose every place I go. And David understood that. So what started out as just a simple, mundane task, bring food to your brothers, turned into this opportunity to take down a giant, and I think that the key is that he showed up being faithful to what he'd been asked to do, but also with an awareness of what was going on around him, right? He wasn't so focused on just getting my task done. He saw that people were afraid. He saw that this giant came out and was taunting the armies of God. He perceived the situation and noticed the needs. And I think, guys, we can be so task oriented, right? Okay, get it done, accomplish. And that's a good thing. We're wired for that. But at times our to-do lists can cause us to just maybe put blinders on and not see the need around us, not see the people that are losing heart, not notice the need. And that's what David did that I think was different. It was really the catalyst for this great epic battle that took place. Was first he showed up, did what he was told, but then he saw the need and he thought, I could do something here.
All right. So let's face it, when guys are done watching this or listening to this and they either leave for work or they, get out of their car and they're at the office, it's very likely that there will not be a 9-foot tall Philistine soldier standing in the middle of the parking lot talking trash.
I hope not.
And if there is, that's really going to be weird. But at the same time, but as men, there might be a giant, so to speak, looming over us or looming over our families. So what's that look like? Or when we were talking before we got on the video today, you brought up some kind of specific examples of things in our lives that become these giant, seemingly unsurmountable issues facing us, facing our families, that people are, again, losing heart over.
That's, in some ways, I think it would almost be easier if we did see the 9-foot tall Philistine standing in the parking lot, because at least then we have something to swing at, right? At least then it's something we can see and we can go, okay, I know exactly what I'm facing. But we all know that that's not the case. A lot of times it's like, okay, what are we facing? As we've walked through this last year, even this giant of fear has just risen up in people's lives. We're afraid of everything, and people are truly losing heart and giving up and saying that there's nothing we can do, that we're afraid of everything. And so fear can be a giant, or we've seen this anxiety creep up of just constant worry. And some of us have probably found ourselves in that place of maybe you lost a job, with the amount of unemployment and just changes there, and just that anxiety of what's next? How are we going to make it? How are we, financially, people are going, I don't know where my next paychecks come from. I don't know where my next meal is coming from, let alone paying my rent or my mortgage. Our kids, I've got, like I said, I've got 3 kids. My wife is Puerto Rican and Mexican, and I'm German and Irish. So our kids are just angry all the time. It's just the way it is. No, but we do have a passionate, high emotion kind of household. And this last year, man, it did a number on our emotions. Our kids, they trying to figure out how do we navigate this uncertainty and all of that. Those are giants that we face on a regular basis. Practically, I know we mentioned kind of the financial world, but there's people who their giant, it really is, I don't know how I'm going to get groceries tomorrow or this week, or those are things that are stressing people out, and they seem far too big to ever overcome. It seems like this is too great of a challenge. We don't know what to do, and that's where there's opportunity for us as men to say, hey, let no one else give up because they're facing anxiety. Let no one else give up or lose heart because they don't know where their next paycheck's coming from, or there's ways that we can notice and meet practical needs that really is, this is how we fight for those that are around us. This is how we fight for people.
So, all right, then let's do this. And because again, being drive time, we like to talk tangibles. And while I know you can't give a tangible step for each one of these potential giants we're facing, but if you can drill down in one, maybe it's something, whether you and your wife work through with your kids to address the emotional toll, or if it's, our interactions with coworkers, what can we walk away with this week that as a guy I'm just showing up to work to be faithful to, I'm bringing food to the battlefield. I didn't show up for a fight. But then I see these people around me losing heart. What's a thing that I can do this week to take that step forward to maybe helping either encourage and build up those who have lost heart, or maybe to make that statement of like, okay, let no one else lose heart in this. What are your thoughts?
That's good. I love that you guys, as drive time, I love that you move to the tangible, because if all it ever does is stay as kind of this heart and idea phase, then what have we done? We go deep by doing what we've learned, or by acting it out and taking steps. So, around here, one of the sayings that we have is we just talk about this idea of, we say it like this: walk, don't run. And what we mean by that is, if we take the example of Jesus, who had 3 years of ministry on this earth, who had more people to try to rescue and change and feed and clothe and meet the needs of than any of us could imagine. And yet he was never in a hurry. He was never in a hurry. He walked from place to place. He noticed the needs. And so practically, what does that look like? Well, when I go onto my workplace or my job site, or we'll start there in the work space. What do I do? Well, if I take on this mindset, this heart of Jesus, to walk, not run, then as I go onto my work environment, then I'm going to slow down and listen. That's a practical step. It may seem like kind of conceptually, but it's very practical to just be intentional about listening to what's going on with my coworkers or you'd be amazed at when you slow down a little bit and listen, you will hear the needs. People share what's on their heart. Intentionally, unintentionally, out of the abundance of the mouth, abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if we're listening, we're going to hear where people are at, and that's going to give us a clue. Okay, here's something I can do. In our homes, maybe if you're married, you have kids, or whatever, there's a practical step that you can do to bring peace and steadiness into your home. Is to be intentional about praying with your kids, for your kids, with your wife, for your wife, all together as a family. Maybe, and listen, I know that we may all be at different comfort levels with that, with prayer, with whatever, maybe you've never said a prayer out loud in front of anybody else. That's okay. You can start by just, maybe the place that you start is by going to your wife and just saying, hey, is there something I could pray for you for this week? That's choosing to fight for your wife, to say, okay, I'm going to go to God on your behalf, or ask your kids, can I pray for you this week? And maybe that step, can I pray for you, can turn into, can I pray with you? Can we pray together? Can we, and I think the prayer piece is an important piece. I know in the church world, we tend to, oh yeah, I'll pray for you. I'm guilty of this, well, what do we need to do? Well, I'm praying, and we use that as kind of a flippant response. But in reality, when we take it seriously to pray for someone and lift them up, that's what it looks like to go to war for somebody, is to say, God, I see need, and I'm lifting up that need to you, and I'm asking for your heart for that person. That's a practical step we can take. So I think listening, first of all, of being intentional about the places you go, listening to what people say. And you'd be amazed at how much you learn about where people are at just by listening. And then just taking that prayer step of, okay, I'm gonna make time, 5 minutes a day or whatever. It doesn't have to be 5 hours a day, just make time to say a prayer for your wife, for your coworkers, for your kids, whatever it is.
So, all right. And I think that's great. Those are good tangibles. I'm gonna throw a curveball at you.
Okay.
Because as you were talking through that, and if a guy's listening to this morning, and he hears this and he's like, yeah, that's great for the guys who can be present enough to help others not lose heart. But man, I lost heart a year ago. What do you say to that guy about maybe taking his first step out of that? This is the guy who, whatever it was, whether it was financial or relational or illness or whatever, where they've lost hope in things getting better. What would you say their tangible is this week?
Yeah. And this is going to sound simple, I think, but it's also going to be, maybe for some, as I say it, is like, there's no way I'm not doing that. But I think one of the best first steps that you could take, if you're in that place right now, and if you're listening to this and things are rattling around in your head and you're going, that's me, I've lost hope. The first step is, in my opinion, is to find someone you can say that to, that you can just someone another guy that you can go to. Maybe it's another guy from CapeMEN or something that you could say, hey, here's the reality of where I'm at, is my finances are so bad I don't know what to do. Or man, things in my house have just gotten crazy this last year, and I don't know how to do this dad thing, and it seems too big. It seems to, the reason I say it's simple is because there's not a lot to it. Is go find a friend. That seems simple, but it requires a level of vulnerability that as men we don't like to have. Like, we don't. I don't want to tell you, Dave, that I've got something that I'm struggling with. I want you to be able to look at me and go, yeah, he's the one that's out there fighting for people, But the truth is that every single one of us at some point finds ourselves in that place of I'm losing heart. I'm giving up in this area, or this just seems too big for me, and we were never designed to walk this out, whatever it is that you're facing. You weren't designed to walk it out alone and isolated and having to just figure it out and grit through it by yourself. We're designed to link arms and to fight together and to lift one another up, because today I might need you to be the one who fights for me, who just is there, and I can spill my guts and say, man, this is terrible. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And you can encourage me and tell me the truth. And, but tomorrow it may be the reverse. You may be the one that needs me to encourage you, to lift you up, to say, hey, I'm on your side, man. I'm in your corner. We can do this. Let's keep going. And so I would say that would be my first step. If you're in that place, that tangible, what can I do is find one other guy, find another person, find a friend, and be real. We don't do ourselves any favors when we fake it. We got to be real with each other. So
that's good, and I agree with you 100% on that. The need to lift each other up, and the fact that guys love to be the one who rescues. They don't want to be the one who gets rescued.
Right.
They want to encourage. They don't want to have to be encouraged. So guys, I would echo exactly what Andy said. And, anyone who's been around me or CapeMEN or Drivetime for any amount of time knows that I would go back to that topic of brotherhood and being connected with a group of brothers as really a foundational item in where my faith has grown, but also where I've seen others' faith grow and develop as well. But Andy, I just want to say thank you. I know you have a lot going on in your ministry, and I know it's hard to slow down and do stuff like this. So I just want you to know that we are very grateful for your time and for the insight that you gave us this morning. We just appreciate you spending the time with us.
Oh, Dave, thank you, man. It's such a pleasure just to be able to hang out with you guys, and I'm a huge fan of everything you guys are doing, and love getting to be a part whenever I can. So thank you for inviting me and just allowing me some time to come on and just glean from you. I love the questions you ask, so I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching another episode of Drive Time. And this week, listen. And if you don't have the capacity to listen and slow down with people, then look for someone else to share that burden with. We'll see you again next week here on Drive Time.